So am I. So today we have the pleasure of talking with K33 CEO Torbjorn Jensen. Just quickly first, in the interest of full disclosure, I will say my family office is participating in the latest capital raise, and nothing in this podcast should be construed as investment advice. And with that, I'd like to bring on Torbjorn. And I apologise if I've messed up the pronunciation of your name. Hello, how are you today?
Lovely. Visiting
nice.
Moomin Land.
Beautiful. For the summer vacation, or?
Well, quick vacation in quotation marks. In Bitcoin, there's never such a thing as a vacation.
Yeah, Bitcoin never sleeps.
Everything moves on.
Bitcoin never sleeps, yeah. So actually, perhaps we can start with you telling us how you first got into Bitcoin and maybe the path that led you to where you are today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I stumbled upon Bitcoin back in 2013. I was studying economics and had this deep fascination of the question, what is money? And then a friend of mine pitched investing in Bitcoin. I think the price was around $60. I didn't, but it really caught my interest. I got more and more fascinated by it and ended up doing my master thesis on Bitcoin, trying to apply the different schools of thought around the question, what is money, to understand Bitcoin. And from that work, I fell into the rabbit hole, started digging deeper and deeper, became a very active hobby of mine. I became a public speaker on the topic in Norway. Fast forward to 2018, I joined forces with some Norwegian investors, started an investment company, building out services and kind of investing in early start businesses related to Bitcoin. We made that public through a reverse takeover. We started a mining business with clean hydro energy in Norway, kind of beautiful economics. Then Bitcoin crashed 60% at the same time as the electricity prices went 100x because of the war in Ukraine. Managed to survive through that, sold off the mining, specialized our focus, consolidated our brokerage, our asset management, and our market research into K33. And well, here we are.
Right, yeah. No, I wish I got in as early as you, but, we can't all be that early. So, yeah, basically, if you wanted to give us the quick elevator pitch on K33 for those who aren't so familiar with the actual business itself, aside from the Treasury strategy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we're an exchange service, more precisely a broker. So we work with high net worth family offices, businesses and corporates, but also other crypto institutions and financial institutions. So we're a platform for clients to buy, sell, and store Bitcoin, stable coins, and also some other cryptocurrencies as well.
Right. So you have a sort of a fairly a corporate base, and also sort of high net worth clients. Is that right?
Yeah. So we don't work with retail, and the reason is because we have really competitive pricing, deep liquidity, and kind of great support. And unfortunately, if you have millions of retail users, you can't both give them great pricing and great support. It's just too much overhead per user. Also, I think the retail space is overcrowded. There's just a gazillion options out there.
Right.
I think for the really massive institutions, like the bedrocks out there, they will find their partner. But I think when it comes to them, I believe that every financial institution will have a Bitcoin offering in the coming years, and they will need a partner. But for the kind of mid-sized private banks, wealth managers, etc., there's not many partners to choose from, at least not in on the European scene. That's where we're positioning K33 as a kind of preferred partner.
Yeah, and that makes sense because, I mean, all these smaller banks, that sort of thing that you refer to, they're not going to have the resources or the time to dedicate to their own OTC desks and all that sort of thing, but the customers will demand it. So I guess you might be offering like a white label solution to a degree.
Yeah, so they're demanding it already, and we are discussing different models, actually. So we're right now discussing with a lot of banks, or several banks, on Bitcoin collateralized lending. And that actually ties into our Bitcoin Treasury strategy, because the model we're discussing is one in which the bank actually issues the loan. the person using his Bitcoin as collateral will park the Bitcoin with us, and then we as a company will write a guarantee to the bank. That guarantee we are willing to write because we have the collateral from the client, but from the bank's perspective, they're willing to accept the guarantee, not based on the Bitcoin as collateral, but based on our balance sheet.
That makes sense. So they're not touching the Bitcoin. They don't have to worry about custody or the client. They just have to get a guarantee from you.
Exactly. And a lot of people are wondering, why are banks so negative to Bitcoin? And they think that it's because they're afraid of competition. I don't think that's the main case. I think the main case is that they don't see how they would make money. Because most banks don't make money from transaction costs. They make money from interest rate spreads. And until now, there hasn't been many interest rate spreads. There hasn't been much lending going on, apart from kind of the derivatives market. So they haven't seen a business model. I think that is about to change. I think kind of Bitcoin collateralized lending is going to explode in the coming years. And I think that will be a key gateway drug for the traditional financial sector to come in. The challenge they have is that they don't want to deal with the Bitcoin from a compliance perspective, kind of AML, and also idiotically from a capital requirement perspective, even though Bitcoin is the perfect collateral, it's the best collateral you can have. This is 24/7 liquidity. It's not treated such, so that if you, as a bank, try to use Bitcoin as collateral and put it on your balance sheet, you actually have to put up double the amount of capital, which is costly. But if you have a well-capitalized company guaranteeing you the loan, you don't need that much capital as backing. It becomes cheaper and your margins increase.
Yeah. So would you need a MiCA license for this, or how does that all work?
Yeah. So we are. We're regulated out of Norway. So MiCA is coming with a tiny bit of lag. It's going to be by year end. I mean, we're finalizing our application these days, and we'll probably send it in during the summer, right after the summer.
Right. So that sort of explains, I guess, the reason why K33 would also embark on a Bitcoin Treasury strategy. Having that collateral makes you a stronger financial foundation to act as that go-between the corporate and high net worth end users and their banks.
Absolutely. So, I mean, there's two main reasons, right? One is that we are strong believers in Bitcoin financially, but also ideologically. I think Bitcoin is going to emerge as the kind of new world reserve currency. I'm invested in Bitcoin personally. The family offices, high net worth I speak to, I advise them to allocate to Bitcoin, to stack sats, to be careful on trading, but have a long-term view. So it really makes sense for us as a business to put our money where our mouth is. I'm more than happy to be correlated to the Bitcoin price long-term. But it's not only kind of a solid financial investment. It's also a key strategic enabler. In finance, it is the biggest balance sheet that wins. And K33 as a broker is very much a financial player. And we have already improved our margins. So by using Bitcoin as collateral for our counterparties where we hedge out when clients trade with us, we've been able to source even tighter spreads. We're always fully hedged. We will do what's called matched principal trading. So we don't take risk on the Bitcoin. We don't take market risk. We do the offsetting trade that our clients are doing. But without the collateral, you can't provide the liquidity. With the collateral, you can really scale, offer deep liquidity, post-trade settlement, and a broader product spectrum like Bitcoin collateral.
Or without risking the actual Bitcoin itself. Yeah.
I think that is key, right?
Sorry.
Because we're already starting to see some of these Bitcoin treasury companies engaging in option strategies where they're, for instance, selling put options. So they're selling the right for someone else to buy at a very low price. And as long as the price keeps going up, that's a great strategy. But if the Bitcoin history has taught me anything, is that massive drawdowns are to be expected. They're likely to be less deep in the future, but you should really prepare for up to an 80% drawdown. And the challenge is that if someone is paying you for the right to buy at a very low price, there is a scenario in which that option is in the money. And if you were the one writing that option, it means that you are out of the money.
Yep.
So,
Sorry, Tom.
so Steve, just to add a question, why has it taken? I mean, relatively speaking, obviously, but why did you choose to go for this BTC strategy now? Like, why did it take so long for you? Why this moment?
Well, so when we launched our mining a few years back, I did a lot of work with our large shareholders, convincing them it's the right move, convincing them of the case for Bitcoin. And the case for Bitcoin is still solid, but it was, to put it mildly, a setback when energy prices 100x, and what could have been a beautiful kind of business venture with clean hydro, energy reusage, all of the positive stories you've seen, became kind of a call it a disaster. So it took time to anchor the idea of buying Bitcoin and raising to hold that on the balance sheet. My head of trading has been breathing down my neck for like 2 years, saying, Torbjorn, I need a larger kind of collateral base to scale our operation. But I think it's very much with a proof from especially strategy, but also the others that have followed, that the market actually appreciates companies with a strong Bitcoin conviction, that you can actually build such a balance sheet, and it's a positive catalyst. I think that was the trigger that made it possible for me to get the kind of the green lights to go ahead and launch the strategy. The second I had the green light, I acted as quickly as I could, secured $6 million from the main investors, started buying the first Bitcoins, did another round, onboarded with an investment bank so that we would be ready, so that we are ready to kind of do consecutive rounds efficiently. Right now, I'm painfully waiting for kind of the legal work we have an EGM coming up next week, and then after that, there's money that's going to move through banks and paperwork to be done. After that, it'll be much swifter. But I saw the opportunity to kind of just get it started, secured an initial capital, and then I didn't wait.
Yeah. So on that point, with the capital you raised so far, obviously you've also put a big Bitcoin treasury goal of 1,000 Bitcoin.
Yeah.
How do you look at the next rounds of funding? Are you still looking at private placements? Are you thinking about trying to go to institutional raises, convertibles, and keeping in mind what we just talked about with, I think I agree with you, we both can envisage a sharp drawdown in the next cycle. I think it'll be smaller than the last one, but I still think 50% or more is very, very easily foreseeable. Would you look at bringing on debt, or is that something that would be too risky?
So I will not rule out that completely. But to be clear, I think my preferred financing source would be to do private placements overnight at market. No discount, no warrants, no added dilution, just clean at market. And since we launched our initiative, several larger funds has reached out, shown a lot of interest. And what I'm doing right now, while kind of getting the paperwork and the EGM and everything sorted, is to kind of work with these larger players to kind of be lined up and ready to do consecutive rounds at rising prices. And because I think one thing that's very important is that you can easily, or relatively easily, get to 1,000 Bitcoin very fast if the terms favor the investor over the shareholder. But my duty is to maximize shareholder value, which is why it's very important to me to, of course, raise the Bitcoin, get those on the balance sheet, but not take unnecessary dilution, to not give away free options, free warrants, just in case the share price rises and then someone will execute on those. But rather also align with, and this is also very crucial, is to really get long-term shareholders. Because if you raise from flippers that are selling the share and keeping the option for free, and then you're gonna quickly find that you're going to get a lot of downward pressure on your share price. Same thing for those that are engaging with death spiral loans, the kind of the likes that LDA and GEM are offering. That will kind of kill the share price and the momentum, and will stop any possibility to kind of achieve a flywheel effect. So
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Hmm. And so a bit of a tangent, but in future raises, would you consider, or is it feasible or possible under the rules that you're obliged to follow, are you able to raise directly in Bitcoin? So, for example, say you set the raising price at 12 cents a share, but in addition to fiat, you'll also accept Bitcoin as payment?
So there's actually a way to do that in Sweden. You can't explicitly kind of raise in Bitcoin, but what you can do is that you can accept Bitcoin and create a debt, and then you right after can do what is called in Swedish a kvittningsemission, offset equity issuance, where you can, as payment for the equity issuance, clear the debt that was created by the deposit of those Bitcoins. So it's technically possible. I would love to do it. At the same time, we onboarded with Pareto Bank to have an investment bank for having the infrastructure of kind of doing this private placement efficiently, being able to actually bring in larger institutional investors, long-term holders, kind of hedge funds with 5 years horizons, etc. And though, like, Pareto Bank is not ready to accept Bitcoin, even though we can help exchange it, fiat, etc.
Yeah.
So it's technically possible. If I have a good enough investor with a large enough ticket, we'll do it. Otherwise, unfortunately, being listed, being a part of the kind of legacy financial system, it's hard to go kind of Bitcoin subscription directly for now.
Yeah, I understand. Conversely, on my side, it's the fiat rails are even harder. I think my money to your raising last week is going through 3 countries before it gets to you. It's quite irritating.
Fiat rails are a pain. And just as a side note here, because I think by far the majority of business we see from clients in K33 is Bitcoin and stable coins. We're getting more and more companies that has nothing to do with the crypto kind of ecosystem, but they're coming because they are starting to deal with stable coins because they really want to get away from traditional banking. They're so fed up of like weeks of delays. If they misspell a name with kind of one character, it just gets stuck and no one knows where the money is. So kind of we see more and more companies actually using stable coins, and then they off-ramp into fiat or on-ramp through us because we have kind of very good European fiat rails. Like we support all the Nordic currencies, euro, pounds, franc, dollars, from a low-risk Norwegian bank. So yeah, banking is a pain.
Yeah, so I imagine you sort of make a sort of a very small spread or a fee for anyone that's using your rails to get in and out. Is that the idea? Because obviously the stable coins don't have any sort of spread on them as such.
Yeah, no, that's true. So of course there's a limit to how high spread you can do. At the same time, you get really nice and stable kind of recurring revenue because these are companies with a stable business, kind of online marketing, etc. So they come in every week, offload stable coins. So it's a nice kind of base load. But of course, another really cool thing lately is we're not only building our own Bitcoin Treasury, but we're also assisting other Bitcoin Treasury companies doing the same. So we have now, I think, 6 Bitcoin Treasury companies that have onboarded that are kind of doing purchases through us, that are doing custody with us. So in this digital gold rush, if you like, we're not only digging for gold ourselves, but also selling kind of the picks and shovels.
So what companies are we talking about? Is that 800?
So 800 is one that's been public that we're working with. Another, which is pre-IPO, it's Ace Digital in Norway. And then for the rest, I guess they'll be disclosed over time. We just need to coordinate with them as well on making it public.
I really enjoy hearing how much business is going well.
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
Being in the Bitcoin space itself, it's great to have a Bitcoin treasury company, but one that's actually natively digital and Bitcoin is fantastic. So I'm loving what you're saying.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, I've always been very Bitcoin centric, and to me, I was always a bit puzzled by how everyone else, like when I started talking about Bitcoin back in 2013, everyone thought I was crazy, and then just a few years later, everyone started pitching all of these other coins to me, and I was like, well, I would still hold on to my Bitcoin, and then everyone thought I was crazy for being so conservative. But I mean, I think now the market has been speaking very clearly, showing that it's not a crypto market, it's a Bitcoin market. Stablecoins are finding a nice use case. That doesn't mean that other tokens necessarily are worthless, but it means that they are nothing near Bitcoin. And a lot of people have said like, oh, Bitcoin is boring, it's only money. But as an economist, I know that money is nothing but boring. I mean, it's the most important kind of next to language. It's how we communicate. It's how we communicate value. So to me,
absolutely,
it's fascinating
without
to see
money,
it play out that way.
Extremely difficult to do anything without money. So you touched on a subject that I'm going to push you on a little bit. Obviously, you're a Bitcoiner at heart. That's very clear. Can you tell us, without disclosing anything confidential, in generalities on your customer base, which is high net worth individuals and corporate and institutional clients, is there any serious wealth flowing into any of the other altcoins from the world's wealthiest families, or is it really just a non-starter? Because we still hear about them.
Wealth is being allocated into Bitcoin. What we're seeing is that there's some crypto wealthy that have a big stash of different altcoins that are selling from time to time. Someone who's big in, it pains me to say like XRP, because XRP, I think Ripple is a dead project. It doesn't have any kind of, I mean, it's not solving anything. It had great ideas, but I mean, I get this question a lot. Why are we not Bitcoin only? And I think there's two parts to my answer. One is we do have coins now, which is a legacy issue, because there was a point in time when we just switched on the coins that was supported by our liquidity provider. We're going to trim that. There are coins on K33 that really shouldn't be there. Those are going to get removed. But we're not going to be Bitcoin only, because I do believe that there are other tokens that have use cases. I do believe, I'm very libertarian at heart. And even though DeFi so far has mainly been about kind of gambling, I still have hopes for DeFi as a more open, accessible part of the financial ecosystem. I mean, we piloted a solution for Bitcoin collateralized lending, kind of front-ending Maker or Spark. Of course, then you would have to use wrapped BTC. But I think there are other interesting things. Similarly to how I think it's other interesting technologies. I think AI is interesting. Doesn't mean I kind of value Bitcoin less. It's fair to, like, when it comes to them being on a moral high ground and say that you're Bitcoin only, how many of those Bitcoin only brokers only let you buy? Because if you're a true Bitcoiner, if you let someone sell to fiat, you're actually letting them buy the most shittiest of shitcoin, which is fiat. So, but yeah, at the end of the day, I think the market should decide. That said, the market has decided already for some of the coins that we still have, but will remove.
Yeah. So speaking of the market deciding, you touched on it a little bit earlier, but in your eyes, I mean, we're seeing a lot of new treasury companies coming out. Every week there's a couple of new ones. What in your eyes makes a good Bitcoin treasury company? And I'll distinguish that by saying a company that's actually sort of focusing on their treasury, as opposed to companies that are sort of just adding Bitcoin to their balance sheet, which is good. Don't get me wrong. Everyone's going to benefit from having Bitcoin on their balance sheet. But I distinguish between a treasury company and a business that has some Bitcoin.
Yeah, no, I think a key factor is that they really need to have a management and shareholder base that is in it for the long run. And because we've seen a lot of kind of companies just adding Bitcoin to get a pump, and then there are no idea or no plans or no experience on Bitcoin and no next step. I don't think those will do great unless they manage to attract someone with kind of a more long-term view. I think also it's very interesting to see because the different companies will take different approaches on how to use these Bitcoin to generate value. I think we're now in the phase where a lot of these companies are kind of building the balance sheet. But longer term, to maximize shareholder value, you have to find ways to put that balance sheet to work. I think Strategy is a great example. Sailor is basically doing structured finance, where he's taking Bitcoin return and then he's slicing and dicing it and selling off different different return structures to different type of investors, and then leaving kind of the equity as a residual exposure. I think that is very interesting. He clearly has a plan, and he clearly offers something to the market that is of interest. I think in K33, we clearly have a plan on how we're going to use it as a strategic enabler. And I think there's several other models. And I think a lot of these companies will realize that they have to have a model. Some of them will then be acquired because they don't have a clue how. They'll fall in value, they'll start trading at NAV, maybe even a discount, and then they'll make sense as an acquisition target. I mean, to acquiring some of these players that are without their true plan is something that is very interesting to us, at least in K33. But then others will kind of truly become the giants of the global financial system of the future.
That's what I think. I think, Treasury is he's just still busy accumulating, which absolutely makes sense. But I think 10, 20 years from now, he's literally the bank of the future. The ones that hold the Bitcoin will be deciding where the capital is allocated. That's my theory. So talking about the Treasury companies, then what's for internally for K33, what metrics and KPIs matter the most to you? How would you measure your success moving forward?
I think it's very simple. It's sats per share or Bitcoin per share.
It's got to be Bitcoin per share.
That's the only measure that matters. I mean, as more and more people are saying, like Bitcoin is the hurdle, and normally you would measure kind of dollar per share or kind of euro, kroner per share. But long term, you want to measure your ability to kind of deliver value in a unit of account that is not kind of going down the drain. So the true hurdle is Bitcoin, which means that Bitcoin per share, or kind of maybe in the future, we can pay out dividends in Bitcoin. Who knows?
That sounds good.
Yeah, maybe in like 5-10 years, we'll have like, instead of traditional finance earnings calls, we're going to have like, they're all going to begin with, okay, welcome to our Q3 Bitcoin yield call.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be nice. So are you looking to sort of, obviously we know that communication and clarity in the space is, crucial to sort of maintain investor interest and funding. Are you looking to expand the Treasury department, like, put on a director of Bitcoin or, have a dashboard with the metrics for the market to see moving forward?
Yeah, so we'll definitely improve our kind of, like a dashboard in our quarterly reports, etc., kind of to get KPIs more easily accessible. I mean, we're also going to look at how we can simplify and be even clearer in press releases. That said, especially when there's slightly more complicated rounds, the lawyers there's a lot they have to write. So yes, we'll add more clarity. I'm not sure we will bring in a specific kind of head of Bitcoin Treasury. And the reason for that is that, one, we have a kind of really strong in-house research team that is kind of following the market very closely and being used as an expert by the likes of Forbes, Bloomberg, Financial Times. I mean, K33 research is what we're mostly known for, and we mostly follow kind of the Bitcoin market. As for custody, as for kind of the financial products, as for insurance, like all these things are things we do for our clients. These are things we know in and out. We're not an AI consulting firm or something that added Bitcoin and then need to kind of run up this learning curve. This is who we've been for years.
And actually, you touched on it. How are you actually handling your your storage? Are you using multi-sig? I'm assuming it's in-house.
Yeah, it's in-house. So we're using the same solution that we're also selling to other treasury companies. So we're using a multi-party computing. So we're using a technology provided by Fireblocks, and then we have a pretty comprehensive setup, both with components of insurance, disaster recovery, etc. So it's
That's good to hear.
a lot of hard. Yeah, we're not. It's not a single Trezor or ledger.
Thank God.
To put it that way.
I gave you more credit than that. It's all right.
Yeah, but you
and
never know.
one last question from. Sorry.
Yeah, I just got to say, like, we have some clients, right, that were very early in Bitcoin. Very funny when you do the proof source of funds documentation, and it's like, yeah, $1,000, and you have 600 Bitcoin. Beautiful. But then they also have that in like a single Trezor hardware wallet somewhere. So
Oh no,
I wouldn't be able to sleep at night.
No, me neither.
Yeah. So I've just got one last question, and then I'll hand it to Hodl if he's got any, and then after that we'll open it to the floor. So if anyone wants to put their hands up now, we'll get to a few questions. But Torbjorn, what is happening with the ticker in the US, the OTC ticker? Is that going to be live?
Yes. So we're going to apply for the OTC QB, which so we've been possible to trade, but we haven't been, call it, formally listed, and then access is really, really hard.
Right.
By applying to OTC QB, we then have a local sponsor, which is basically a fee you pay. I don't know sure what they're doing, but then you get actually a market maker, and you get good liquidity. So in speaking to OTC markets, they're really happy to see kind of the demand, and they'll do whatever they can to move fast. But there's also some processing time with FINRA, etc.
Because there's reporting requirements with OTCQ, isn't there? There's reporting requirements with OTCQ.
Oh, yeah, the
is that
reporting
correct?
requirements are not an issue. I mean, we're reporting in English already. All our press releases are in English. We had the annual report, which we have to publish in Swedish. We didn't translate that, so we're translating that as we speak. But the main thing for OTC QB is you have to go through an assessment. You have to kind of have an application. It's filed with the FINRA, and then from then on, you can have a market maker and way better access. And the smaller investors can also get access, not only kind of the institutional players.
And so is there a time frame you're thinking on that?
So we're going to file ASAP, and then it's up to
them. Yeah.
the processing time. I mean, unfortunately, it's sometimes can be up to a month or two. But from my conversations actually yesterday with OTC markets, it seemed like that it could be faster, but it also depends on FINRA's processing time.
Of course, yeah. So to clarify, does that mean the ARCNF ticker is sort of very hard to trade or defunct almost?
That's my understanding, from at least for right now, for kind of normal traders. That said, I heard that if you are a more professional trader and you call your broker, Schwab or Fidelity, etc., they can quote you. So I would recommend anyone who's kind of thinking about like allocating in size to actually call their broker to see what they can do. And some also have the possibility of giving direct access, because all of the larger brokers have access. So they could buy and hold in a European entity and then kind of create a certificate for US investors. They don't do this for kind of retail, but for I don't know exactly where the bars are going there, but yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it from my side. Hodl, did you have anything else you wanted to ask before we open it to the floor?
Only one question really surrounding MNAV. So from the past, since Strategy kind of pioneered this strategy when they entered the market, it's, from my view, like looking at MetaPlanet and the blockchain group and Semler Scientific, all these big ones. It's kind of an understanding as of now that the market only assigns these meaningful premiums to the companies who are all in on the Bitcoin trade, and basically don't reward the companies like as seen with Semler Scientific, which kind of are seen as half in the trade, like not being as aggressive, increasing their Bitcoin stack. So I was just wondering, like, both short term and long term, like, how hard are you gonna stack?
Well, we launched on less than a month ago. If I count the warrants that are in the money, and I'm speaking with investors and they're kind of going to convert, we are going to have the funding to buy around 300 Bitcoin. It's just that it takes a bit of time in place already. My initial target is to get to 1,000. I'll do that as soon as possible, but I will not enter into a death spiral loan financing. I'll not take unnecessarily dilutive instruments. My duty is to maximize shareholder value long term for the existing shareholders. That said, I think we're going to be able to kind of get there quickly. Hard to say precisely when, but that's the first milestone. And with Bitcoin per share as the metric, I don't see any reason to stop.
It must be.
So actually, one thing I want to comment on, because I saw several questions on why don't we invest in ETH. And just to be clear, I'm not against ETH, but I think what is very important to understand is that the network effects of money are highly monopolizing, whereas the network effects for a utility network is much weaker. If you take video, VHS won against Betamax. There were network effects. But then, since it was a utility-driven thing, the second you had DVD, VHS was replaced. Then you got streaming. It's much more competition.
Yeah.
That's great for humanity. That's great for use cases. That's great for whatever application you build. It's not great for kind of money or like what you just want to hold long term. It's great for an active investor, but not as a kind of high conviction bet. Money, on the other hand, is kind of truly monopolizing within its sphere. So right now we're seeing Ethereum facing a lot of competition from Binance Chain, from Solana, from other kind of chains and tokens, taking other trade-offs and then eating away parts of Ethereum's market. But there are no other trade-offs you truly can make to eat away Bitcoin's market as money. Because I'm not saying that Bitcoin, well, actually, I guess that is what I'm saying. It's as a form of money, it's perfect in that if you tweak it in any dimension or direction, it wouldn't be superior. And that's why we're allocating to Bitcoin and not going to allocate to other coins, because we're not an investment fund. Standard coin have no other business than buying and holding Bitcoin. Or whatever business they have is not related to holding those Bitcoin. If you don't have another business that is related to the Bitcoin and the Bitcoin exposure become disproportionately large, and this is not a Norwegian thing, this is kind of European regulation, you'll be seen as a shadow ETF or an alternative investment fund, but without the license. That's a risk that is actually hanging over many other cases in the space. For us as a broker, we have a clear usage of the Bitcoin as collateral. It clearly fits into our business operation. So for us, well, you can, like, a lawyer would never allow me to say there's no risk. But my lawyers have been very clear that they basically said that there's no risk of the same type of questioning because there is a strategic rationale. It's a part of an operational business. It's not just a Bitcoin exposure in an equity. So to me, this also ties into what I mentioned earlier. If you don't have a solid plan around what to do with the Bitcoins, it's not only a problem because you long-term don't know how to maximize shareholder value, but it could also turn into a problem from a regulatory point of view. Then the question is, what do? You either develop a business model or you get acquired by someone who has one. So I think there's going to be, over time, some consolidation in the space as well. And when that is happening, I think K33 is in a pole position to be one of the acquirers.
That makes sense. That makes sense. All right, great. Is there anything else you wanted to finish up on, Torbjorn?
No, I think most have been covered.
All right,
I
great.
think it's amazing. I mean, I have to pinch myself, say that in English, in the arm every day, because when I wrote my thesis on Bitcoin back in 2013, it was, on the one side, it was possible to see kind of what would unfold, and especially also how, for instance, governments would start to evolve, like develop their own central bank currencies, etc. But to see how far this industry has come, and to see on how many fronts kind of Bitcoin is kind of pushing the boundaries and kind of pushing a new future, and to be able to kind of work in the middle of that every day is just extremely rewarding. And to also have, I mean, to have such an amazing community come in and support us is kind of extreme. I really, really appreciate all of you for questioning us, kind of putting the bar high, but also the support. It really makes it a rewarding job to have, although stressful from time to time.
No, it's great to hear. I can hear the passion, which is great.
Fix the money, fix the world, eh?
Yes.
So I think with that, we'll finish up. Thanks very much for joining us today, Torbjorn, and I wish you all the best personally and for the business in the year ahead. And when I head to Oslo, I'll let you know.
Yeah, please do. It would be great to meet up in person as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.